flinch, break down life inch by inch.
This is Richard. Richard does a lot of accountability groups with me. He will be part of Bloomfest. We call him the science guy, science and heart guy. Before I'll give you like you're already starting, but he has a great story about like he healed himself from cancer.
Beautiful, beautiful. It matches with the topic perfectly. So, okay. Well, welcome you guys. Welcome to my experience. I appreciate you being a part of my experience in life. I'm thinking about changing the name because somebody told me that it sounds a lot like the Joe Rogan experience, which is the reason why I did steal the name experience. But it is my life experience, and just looking for like a more unique brand. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so this is how we'll get started. Welcome, Richard. Welcome, Bilinda. I was reading The Alchemist, and almost at the end on page 159, there's a quote where he's talking to his heart. He says, as he was about to climb yet another dune, his heart whispered, be aware of the place where you are brought to tear. That's where I am, and that's where your treasure is. And as I read that Monday, I said, I wonder what that means. The Spanish call on Monday was all about this. I translated it into Spanish, and we had two people that teared up.
I immediately got teary-eyed as soon as you said it, because I was like, I know exactly what this means.
So go ahead, please share.
It's interesting because the mind wanted to tell me in the past that I was doing something wrong when I would get teary-eyed, because you're supposed to be practicing gratitude, you're supposed to be practicing love and joy. And I've had, been in different environments, with where I have my eyes closed or my hands on my heart, and I'm getting to that moment, and it brings me to tears, like, immediately. And in the past, I would be like, why am I crying? Like, aren't I supposed to have a smile on my face right now? Aren't I supposed to be jumping up for joy? But really, when I get into, like, the deep heart space, tears come immediately. And as soon as you were reading it, I was like, I connected, and I got so connected to my heart, and I was like, oh, yeah, it's definitely, that's where it lives. Somebody's breaking through to my Do Not Disturb, which is always amazing on my phone.
How did they break through?
So you got me immediately.
Wow. Do you think that people who allow themselves to tear up or cry may be better connected with their emotions or their heart than people who don't allow themselves to go to that space?
We're just better people overall. We're like the best people on the planet. We're much more intelligent. No.
Yeah.
I don't like to say that something is better or worse, but we're more connected or not. It's just, I think it's not more connected. More aware. We're always connected, but we're more aware in that moment. You can never disconnect, but you're aware of the connection.
Aware. Yeah. I shared an example on Monday about a movie that made me cry. Inside Out. Have you guys seen it?
Hysterically crying. Richard, did you see it?
I'm going to say that I did, but
this weekend you will be sobbing.
Is it on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay.
There's 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's the movie where they have all the emotions. They have all the characters are an emotion in the being, and it's like a little, like it's a kid, it's a girl, a young girl, and then but the movie is about the personification of her emotions inside of her mind or inside of her body. Inside of her.
The part that got me is it's a girl that's coming of age, and so there's different parts of the brain. I have chills. Different parts of the brain where there's like the family part of the brain, the friend part of the brain, the goofball island. There was actually islands, that's what they called it. And so if you have children, or you were a child, and you can remember that you weren't so serious, like you could do anything, and you felt comfortable, you didn't feel like people were judging you. And the little girl has the moment where her parents are doing the goofy scene where they're acting like apes, and she used to do it with them, and all of a sudden she recognizes they might look silly. So she's like, I don't do that anymore. And her island started falling apart. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh. Yes.
It was so well written, that movie.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna look it up. Hang on.
Watch it with your daughter. Oh.
Daughter. I have to open another infinite window on my browser so that I can remember.
Is she 14, Richard? Or
yeah, she's gonna be 15 in a few months.
Oh, perfect timing.
Nice. So here's the story. So I think it it had been a year or two since it came out, and I was watching it, and I was at my parents' house, and I don't remember what part it was that made me cry, but it has something to do with the sadness character. And then I remember I heard my dad came inside of the house. I heard the door, and then right then I like immediately I cleaned myself up, and then I felt like shame, and I realized at that moment, I'm like, I'm hiding my vulnerability from my father, the person that, you know, cares probably the most about me, except my mom, in this world. And then I realized the reason was that I've never really had that type of connection with either of my parents. Like, I've never had that, you know, like in the Tony space, how they said, like, deep, really fucking deep, you know, connection with my parents. We never had that talk. And till this day, I mean, it's good and bad, because on one side, I think it works. My parents have had their issues. They never really communicated. They keep it to themselves. So that allows them to keep their issues and work them out without it coming out into the ether and everybody getting involved and ruining shit, you know? So, you know, and at the same time, you know, there's like some emotional damage, by the way. Emotional damage. Get it on Amazon.
This portion of this program is presented by...
Yes, this is a great author. It's really well written book, Josias and Dujar. So you can find it. I'm trying to find ways to like put in like little like affiliate things. So, but yeah, so that's the story. I felt like I had to hide, you know. So, but yeah, that's the story. I wanted to say because and then I shared that and. Wow. Yeah, do you guys have a story like similar to that, or, you know, maybe it's the time for Richard to tell us that thing that you were saying earlier.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Like you, and I could probably write a book about it.
Okay.
Because we'd be here for a long time if I had to cover the whole thing. But
yeah. Well, first introduce yourselves and, you know, tell us who you are, and then go into it.
Yes, thank you. Hi everybody. My name's Richard Procopio. I'm from Ontario, Canada, somewhere between Toronto and Niagara Falls, and I'm a leader in Bloom communities. I have training from the Heart Math Institute, and I love the science behind everything that has to do with personal change, transformation. It's basically human potential. I'm a huge believer in what we're capable of, and providing that information in a very easy way. I understand there's a lot of technical stuff out there, and people, you know, they trip over it because it sounds really big, and I love to make it easy.
Yeah. I like the hard math. I learned in UPW. I met this gentleman, and he taught me the hard hug.
Yes.
That came from there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic stuff. A lot of people, I don't want to say devalue just by the words that they use unintentionally. The coherence techniques that are used are researched techniques. They're not just breathing techniques, right? They're referred to as coherence techniques intentionally because each one actually has research behind it to tell you what it does to your nervous system, what it does to your electromagnetic field, your blood pressure, your hormone projections, all of that type of stuff. So it's a lot more than just, you know, 2 seconds in, 2 seconds hold, 2 seconds out, 2 seconds hold. It's way more than that. And I love the idea that with the right information, people can stitch those ideas in their head and realize that they're really doing something. It's not just like, trust me, breathe like this. No. You're actually doing it. There are white papers behind it if somebody really needs evidence. So,
it's like, bro, do this, bro. Semen retention, bro.
Yeah. Trust me, bro. Science, right? I don't go down that road personally.
Yeah.
But what I can say from a point of emotional intelligence, what's brought me here is an entirely different ballgame. Like, you know, I'm surviving stage 4 cancer. 2 years ago, the doctors didn't even believe that I would still be here. So I'm on the extended warranty program, if you want to say so. The biggest things that I can recall right now, like what you were saying with your parents and when you were younger, is I understand the idea of having to, I don't want to call it putting up an emotional wall, but when I was a young man, say 13, 14, 15 years old, my parents, you know, they loved me, they were there for me. I can't say not. they did it in their own way. I also came up in an environment where if you were, let's just say as a young man, it wasn't your best interest to be considered soft, if you want to say so. And there are elements that I had to explore about myself and project just to keep myself safe. The idea of emotional intelligence at the time was a survival skill. In the right environments, I had the opportunity to practice being softer and kinder to myself and other people, which may be part of the reason why I've always had friends of the opposite sex. Like as long as I can remember, I've always had female friends that have been close to me because I don't know, I find that I can move back and forth between my masculine and my feminine energies even from a younger age. But the way that I had to present myself to the world for a long time was the idea that if I didn't keep a certain composure, I would be taken advantage of, or you'd end up in trouble or worse. That kind of carried with me through a lot of my life. And if you explore the ideas and the concept, or the written science about epigenetics, for example, for a lot of years I signaled a gene that created the disease unknowingly. I didn't do it. Nobody actually does it to themselves. But one day my internal biological sequence says, well, if you really want to feel that way about yourself because you memorized it, then here you go. We're going to give you the greatest gift you've ever encountered. And they're going to call it stage 4 cancer.
Whoa. By the way, welcome, Alicia. And welcome, let me see who else is here. Josias, welcome, guys. Let me see here. So stage 4 cancer. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was 3.5 years ago. Now,
What did that feel like? And let's play a little game.
Sure.
Let's in 30 seconds. Can you condense it? What did that feel like? Go.
Initially,
Yes.
it felt like it was all over, and you literally start grieving for all the people in your life and all the things that you experience. The idea of losing one person that you really love, you come across the idea that you're going to lose everything you love.
Well, I have a similar story, but it's not for cancer.
Okay.
It's a near-death experience. I think I was like 6 or 7 years old, and we were vacationing in a hotel with my family. And I remember we were at the pool. I went over the safe side. I went into the deep end, and I was just holding on to the rail. And I slipped, couldn't get up again. So I started drowning. And I remember there was a point where I gave up and I said, okay, well, this is it. Right when I said that, my mom reached down and grabbed me and pulled me up and saved me.
I believe the only thing that's perfect is divine time.
Yeah. Bilinda, do you have a near-death experience?
I'm sure I have multiple near-death experiences.
I've totaled three vehicles on the highway. I think I did that for attention. Those were near death. It didn't feel like I felt scared, but like
I have a weird near-death experience, even though it's like so it could be perceived near-death experience. This is a really wild story, and I won't make it long.
Okay, wait. So by the way, Bilinda's story is sponsored by Emotional Damage. Get it today on Amazon. All right, go ahead, Bilinda.
I was gonna have Bloomfest sponsor mine.
You're just trying to figure this out, this whole podcast thing.
I think an accountability group around your book, we'll talk about that at another time. I have a whole group of people that like doing books accountability, so we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So the near-death experience, like I said, I was 11 years old. You're going to find out some information about me now. And I was grounded because I was skipping school a lot. And it was New Year's Eve, and I wanted to go hang out with my best friend. And she lived, I don't know how far away, because when you're 11, it seems like far, but she lived a decent couple blocks away. I want to go see her. It's after midnight, New Year's Eve, 11 years old, South Florida. I have snuck out before, but in the past, I didn't do what I did this particular night. This particular night, I took a butcher knife with me, and I went to go see my friend. And so I take the butcher knife and my brother's bike that I was riding, and I put it in a bush right outside of her house. I go to her window. We chat. I go back. I get to the bush, and the bush is in this like dirt turnaround right next to a street where there's houses on the other side. But this other side of the street's just a dirt turn. So I go over to the bush. Something to know about me: when I was 11 years old, I looked like I was probably 20. So I go over to the bush. I grab the knife out first, and I'm getting ready to get the bike. And all of a sudden, two guys in a car pull up to the turnaround and they tell me, hey, do you need, I'm like, no, I don't need anything, I'm good. And they get out of the car and they're like, get in the car. And so me, 11 years old, I take out the butcher knife and I was like, don't fuck with me. And they were like, what the? They must have been like, what the fuck is going on? And they got back in the car and they took off and my heart was pounding and I rode my bike as fast as I could home with my butcher knife. Yeah, so that was my perceived near death. But I think if I got into that car, if I didn't have that butcher knife, things would have went really different. And I snuck out after that because I apparently don't learn fast. And I never brought a butcher knife with me ever again or ever before that night. Strangest thing.
Wow. Welcome, Melisha.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hey.
Hi, Melisha.
Hey, good. So to just to bring it back to the beginning, today's topic is emotional intelligence, sponsored by the amazing book Emotional Damage by Josias. And we started off with this phrase. There was a quote from the Alchemist, and it goes like, as he was about to climb yet another dune, his heart whispered, be aware of the place where you are brought to tears. That's where I am. That's where your treasure. And as I read that, I said, I wonder what that means. Does that strike any chord for you, Melisha?
You guys can call me Mel. I think I can go back to, like you guys said, or somebody had said, with the near-death experience. I remember going to Mexico, and we were on a catamaran, and we all decided, hey, let's go jump in the choppy waters. That was a bad mistake. I'm a swimmer, and I tell you, those tidal waves took me under, and I could not get back up. And at that moment, that was a near-death experience for myself. I saw my life flash over me. Like, it was just crazy. I was just like, how the hell do I get myself out of this? Saying I'm a swimmer and I'm jumping into this water, no life jacket. My husband had decided that, he was going to stay behind because he had gotten food poisoning, and then finally, one of the guys that was an excellent swimmer, saved me and got me back to shore. But I can tell you that emotionally, I was just like, wow, how do I even get myself out of this? Like, what do you think of? And, I am Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but I guess when I hit 39, I'm now 51, I had an aha moment where I said, you know what, I need to pray. I prayed that because I just went under. I could not, pull myself at that point. Emotionally, I just had to fight with everything I had in me. And it's funny because I forget your name. I'm sorry. Can you go back to your name? The one who was explaining with the butcher knife?
Bilinda.
Bilinda.
The names are on the Zoom. Did you?
Oh my God, I think of back, like when I was young. Like I said, I'm 51. And I think of all the stupid things I did as a young girl, like riding with strangers in cars with our friends. And we're like, oh, yeah, we'll go to the beach. And like, hey, hop a ride. And crazy. It's just crazy. But emotionally, you wonder, like, how do we get through these things? I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like so many moments of danger. Like you said, all you could think about was the butcher knife. And I'm like, oh, my God, I remember, being close to these things. And you're like, wow. But yeah, it's just bizarre.
Well, all right, so Mel, this is Belinda, this is Richard, this is Belinda, Richard, this is Mel, this is everybody, Richard, this is everybody, Belinda. Let's take a little break, you guys. Let's socialize a little bit. So I know Richard from 5 seconds ago, and I know Belinda from the Tony Robbins world. I'm a friend of her husband, and Mel, we work together in petitioning industry, in the political industry. So yeah, you guys say hi. Tell each other a compliment about one another that you think. If you like something about another person, tell it. Let them know.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. Just
I think it's fantastic. I guess it'll be. I can compliment everybody on this. That it's absolutely commendable that people like us are part of the 1%, if you want to say so, and we're showing up for the world by doing.
Absolutely, 100%. I think because I caught it tail end. Is it you that was diagnosed with stage 4, or was it a loved one that was?
No, that was my body. Let's just say.
I think it's commendable that you're able to speak about it. You know, it's a very touchy subject for myself. I lost my grandmother to cancer from one moment to another about 11 years now. And, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, the liver is the one that can rejuvenate itself, but it spread so fast from one minute to the next, and then she was gone. And, you know, she fought a very hard fight. You know, right now I have a friend that is going also diagnosed. She was having pain, some balance problems, you know, going up and down the stairs, and she's very active, very hyper happy woman. And she's also in her 50s, and now she's diagnosed with stomach cancer, stage 4. And you know, she's fighting the fight, decided that, you know, she wanted to go aggressively with her treatment, and, you know, it's okay. I believe there's holistic ways to take care of yourself. And she decided to go the opposite way rather, with chemo and radiation. I'm not in agreement with that, but like I said, every to each his own. I think there's a lot of holistic ways that people don't know, you know, how to handle these things. And, you know, the best advice, you know, to give or to even, you know, mention is, you know, you have to fight. And I think you're so brave, and it's amazing. You look well.
Thank you.
You know, and live life to the fullest.
I do it every day as much as I can.
Wow. Okay, let's hear this. Some quotes here. Sometimes I laugh, but I'm actually leaking through pain through my smile. When do you use humor to deflect instead of to express? What's hiding behind the punchlines you tell? Do you guys agree with the premise that the best comedians transmute their comedy from pain? And how would that manifest? You know, how do you think that would manifest? And maybe Richard, you know, if you're going through this much pain, like, you know, do you like find time to tell jokes about it and to laugh about it?
It's funny because, you know, everybody, let's say, you know, everybody in their own cultures and journeys in life get a free pass at the kind of jokes that they. And for me, I'm you know, when I go to the hospital, I've done it. Belinda's seen me before. I'll go to the hospital and I take a picture with a sign that says nuclear medicine, and I'm like, today we're going in the dark, right? And what else am I supposed to do? Like, so what? It doesn't. The sun's still gonna come up tomorrow, and it's gonna come down tomorrow night. So I learned a long time ago that there's no value in ruminating over a feeling that just runs a biological sequence that doesn't work to your advantage.
You know, I have to add to that, you know, we all know the famous Robin Williams. You know, he was such a great comedian and loved by so many, and who would have thought that he was hiding so much pain behind those jokes? You know, to think that, you know, depression and all these other illnesses, you know, they're out there, and you just think, wow, you know, who would have thought with all the comic relief behind everything, he was suffering in so much pain that we never knew, the world never knew.
Wow, and then to go on the other side of the spectrum, somebody that transmutes the pain, I think self-inflicted pain, it would be Joe Rogan. You know, I don't know how hard his life is because he never talks about it openly, but trains really, really hard in the gym. And then he goes and he just tells jokes, you know. The thing is, like, train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, that thing all day.
Yeah.
If
it's not the same story as Dwayne Johnson. He came out about personal mental health issues, and that's all he does when he's not working is train.
Right. So what do you think about that connection there? Because let's say somebody could have like you could have like an illness that you're dealing with, but somebody else might use like self-inflicted pain to then improve themselves, I guess. But then it's still painful, and then you use that pain and you transmute it. And then talking about the Alchemist, you know, talks about transmutation, talking about turning lead into gold. These guys become wealthy by telling these jokes.
I agree. I think that there is the term I'm looking for is probably the consciousness in which you do. So if you were to exercise for the sake of being healthy, that's one thing. But if you're trying to outrun your disease, you're still living from a biological standpoint of not enough or lack. That's why you find people that are extremely healthy that have an oncologist just like me, right? Because it's not necessarily what goes on outside of your body, but how you feel internally. And if you're going to lift weights or run or be, you know, health conscious to a very rigid degree, what are your actual intentions? Because if it's, you know, if you think that you're just going to run away from it by lifting weights, you can't do it that way, unfortunately.
So tell us, Richard, what is the surefire way to beat cancer?
Well, what I like to help people understand is there is a science that people refer to as epigenetics, and there's a science that people refer to as neuroscience or neuroplasticity, and understanding the basics of how your genes are expressed and how you can rewire, for lack of a better term, the programming of your past. The combination of those two with making better decisions and practicing who you want to be and the feeling around who you want to be, there is scientific research that shows that you will signal the genes that create health and wellness just as easy as you can kill yourself from stress, which everybody already knows. But having the building blocks to understand that if you feel the feelings of your future as being healthy, it's been recorded that you can become better. But it's practice, like anything else.
I've begun this practice this year. I've done it where I think it's a true habit, where I would go to the beach every morning and I get in the water. In the beginning, I wasn't even getting in the water. I was just going to the beach to meditate, and then it helped me find some peace. But now, as I am working not just on peace, I'm working now on self-improvement. I've started using affirmations and actually getting in the water and immersing and submerging myself. And is that a word? Submerging? Yeah,
Absolutely.
in the water. And I even do it's like a morning affirmation baptism where I will say I love myself. I love myself.
It must be working, because the way that I see you, the way that you light up when you do it, you've memorized what that feels like.
Yeah, yes, and that's the point. That's the point. It's the cold exposure, number one, which wakes you up, and then doing something that's uncomfortable, but then it feels so refreshing and awesome after the fifth or sixth time. So in the beginning it feels weird and awkward, but then it feels great. It feels amazing. I love that. And then I do the priming pumps also, and the breathing, the fire yogic breathing, and sending love and the gratitude. And I have a combination of that and some stretching. And I'll tell you what, I really don't want to stop doing that. So there's opportunities I have that might require me to stop doing that. So that's why I'm trying to see how can I maneuver my life if I can keep that every single day and doing that, because I think that it's making my life a lot better just by doing that every morning. It could be psychosomatic, it could be a delusion too. What do you guys?
I don't believe that.
Okay.
Neither do I.
She's back. You don't look 50 at all, Mel. I'm sure you get that all the time.
Thank you. Yeah, my daughter just actually turned a few days ago on Saturday 30.
Whoa.
I'm a 30-year-old. Oh my God.
You got good genes.
Yes.
Tell her I said hi. So here's the next bit. I chased a girl called Evelinda. She was my crush, one of my crushes during my life. And she would always date somebody else, but I became her best friend, and we were really best friends. We would talk for hours, sometimes 13, 14 hours. It was really ridiculous on the phone, and I would try to convince her to see if she would date me or be my girl, but she never did. And I remember a few years later, 5 or 6 years later, she was single, and but then she had 3 kids. And at this point, I wasn't interested in her.
Terrible. She had kids?
Yeah, she got 3 kids. I want my.
I mean, package deal, but yeah.
Yeah, I have to raise somebody else's children. I would rather have my own, and I not like all right, whoever. I think she got back with her baby dad anyway, so that it worked out perfect. I think, but
You saved yourself.
yes, I guess, yeah, not to deal with all that trauma.
That's horrible.
Yeah, so this podcast is brought to you by emotional damage. But here's another story I tell you. When I was 10 years old, I think it was 5th grade. There was my crush at the time was a girl named Rebecca. And I tell this on my speech when I talk about my book. I saw Rebecca with her mom after school, and I said, okay, well, she's there. Let me just come out and say it. I said, hey, how you doing? I like your daughter. And Rebecca hid behind her mom and said, I only like him as a brother.
Fantastic.
Emotional damage. So on a lighter topic, right? Stage 4 cancer, right? Near-death experiences. We have little pieces of emotional damage that happen that may not be extreme. However, at the time, they do hurt us extremely because we don't know how to process it. Do you have a story along those lines where it's really not a big deal if you think about it now, but it probably still hurts if when like, and you probably know that that moment shaped your life regardless of how minuscule the actual perspective might be.
So I'll give you guys a quick little story because it's a lot. I am an author as well. My book is called The Path to Resilience and Independence. It's based on when I was in my 20s. I was married to my first husband. I have my 3 children from him. He was abusive. At the age, I was 31, and lied to me about his age, go figure. And I didn't realize that he came from an emotionally damaged, and later at that time, we had discovered that he was diagnosed with bipolar as well as schizophrenia. And, me being a young girl, we weren't, or those are now titles that we're given today with modern technology and doctors and, all crazy illnesses come out, and mental awareness and health issues and so forth. He became domestic. And that's what my book is about, surviving and, the marriage for 11 years. My children, I kept thinking, okay, I have 1 child. I'm not going to have another one. I had a total of 3 children, all 4 years apart, coincidentally. And, long story short, it damaged me. It damaged me as a woman. It damaged me as a mother, as a wife. I didn't know how to handle all of this because, I was a young girl. My family, I never knew what abuse was. Because at that time, as I mentioned, I'm 51. You never knew what your parents were going through. If they were going through any hardship, any type of difficulty, they kept it private. Go to your room. These are adult conversations. I'm writing this book. It came to full fruition. I published it in December. It's on Amazon, and it was chaotic because, again, I lost myself as a woman. I didn't know. I kept thinking, had I done this, maybe things would have changed. Had I done that, maybe things would have gone this way. And eventually, I just one day grew the strength, or I would say, in a masculine term, I grew the balls to just say, you know what, I'm done. This is the last straw. I picked up. I hired a realtor. I'm in my 20s, found a place, packed my kids, and just left. And it was one incident that I had. He put a 9mm gun to my head. I was with my daughter, who was 8 or 9 at the time. I was on the phone with my aunt in Texas, and she was just like, Militia, stay in control. Everything's gonna be okay. Next thing I know, a SWAT team came to my door, pulled me and my children out at the time. I was done. Done. And like I said, it's all in my book. There's if you guys have Kindle, you could read it for free. But yeah, it's for me, it was me empowering other women, that even men, to get out of situations that they've never thought could possibly happen. It's scary.
Well, what was the title of your book?
The Path to Resilience and Independence.
Path to Resilience and this podcast is brought to you by The Path, Resilience and Independence.
Yeah, so The Path to Resilience and Independence. You'll see it's by M. Christopher. I kept my name out of it just to protect myself. Eventually, he found out about it and went chaotic and crazy about it. So, but all is well.
Wow.
And yeah.
Okay.
I'm living proof that you can get through things emotionally, abuse, and still survive. And I'm standing. I'm stronger than ever. I am now married to a wonderful man. I've been with him 12 years, 6 years married, and it was I married my best friend. Those are the best relationships that you can get into.
What about you, Bilinda? You married your best friend.
I did. Not really, actually. That's a whole other topic.
Okay, so
I'm gonna just say really quick. It's a pleasure meeting you guys. I have to run and take a flight. I'm headed to New York. My mom is having surgery tomorrow, so I
wow.
wanted to sign off. A pleasure meeting you guys, and hopefully we can reconnect on another time, another podcast.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely, Josias. We'll talk soon.
Sending healing energy to your mom.
Thank you so much. Same to you, Richard. Pleasure meeting you, Bilinda.
A pleasure.
Have a good day, guys. Bye.
Bye. On a superficial level, this is how my book starts, and it's hi, how are you? Chances are you're about to give me one of the most predictable answers in human history. Say something like, I'm fine, I'm okay, not bad, I'm great. Here's the thing, I don't buy it. If you're being honest, neither do you. Deep down, there's something you're not saying, something you train yourself to bury so deep that even you don't like to look at it. You might not call it emotional damage, but you know it's there. It's that little weight you carry, that moment from your past you can't quite shake, that voice in your head that tells you don't go there. But what if you did? What if you peeled back the polite smile, the safe answers, and the Instagram filtered version of yourself? What would you find? Here's the part no one tells you. Whatever you're hiding under that I'm fine is exactly what makes you powerful. And from there we go back to the alchemist. The heart tells him that beautiful part. As he was about to climb yet another dune, his heart whispered, be aware of the place where you are brought to tears. That's where I am, and that's where your treasure is. Even though I wrote this book, I'm still trying to figure it out. What do you think? What is the secret? Where's the treasure?
Come on, Bilinda. You know it's all about gratitude.
Yeah, definitely about practicing gratitude. And because, you know, if you ask a person that question and they're being present, then that answer could be true, or good, great, and fine for everything. But the answer could be true. But most people, they're somewhere in the past, or they're worried about the future. And it's a practice. I used to live in the past. That is a torturous place. But then now it's more of a little seesaw. Like, I'm in the future, I need to be present. I'm in the future, I need to be present. Or I get to be present. So practicing being present and practicing gratitude, that's the place that can bring you to the feelings of much more than fine or good or great.
I just got a download. It's remember we were talking about the comedians transmuting their pain? It's emotional damage. You know, like the mutants, or like the Marvel characters. Like there's one that Rogue. You guys know about Rogue? No. So Rogue is an X-Men. She's a mutant character from Marvel, and what she does is she can touch somebody and absorb their energy.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. I didn't know her name.
Yes. So the download I just got was, what if that power, that treasure, and that frequency, in that way, whenever you feel the pain, the skill for the treasure is to learn how to harness that in a way that you can use it in a positive way. You can harness that and use that as fuel, or as like raw power.
I think that, well, I know that that's what I do, and I believe that the people that are listening to this, people that are looking at on the screen, the woman that just left, I believe that's what we do. We take our past that most of us were living in, that was painful, we heal, and then we now use that as our superpower. I have so many superpowers, and I can say, you know, what my superpowers are that help me help other people. So my superpowers are that I was sexually abused, I was physically abused, I was poor, I was homeless, I got a divorce, I have 2 adult children that have had heroin addiction. I had a child that felt suicidal. I felt suicidal. I mean, we could keep rattling them off. And that used to be a story for me to tell. And I would get significance from it. I would get, of course, love and connection, get my needs met from it. And now I don't share those stories unless they're serving somebody. For the most part, somebody can come to me about anything and say, well, you know, I can't be happy, I can't feel joy, I can't feel gratitude because of this. And then I can tell them, well, that's bullshit, because I used to live in pain, I used to suffer with anxiety and depression, and I was diagnosed with PTSD. I overcame it. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s, and I'm 52 now. If you could do it at any time in your life. I had decades of practice of self-loathing and talk therapy, re-traumatizing myself over and over and over, and staying stuck in the story and not helping anybody. Now, I help so many people because of all these. They're my gifts, like Richard was saying. These are all my gifts, and I really feel that way. I had an experience where I believe that, you know, we're brought here to learn these lessons, and I think that we all get these gifts that are on this call right now, and the people that are listening, because we're meant to help change the world. And if you don't go through these things, you can't really empathize with another person or connect with them energetically if you've never gone through it.
Interesting. So the damage can come from effort, or it can come from like situations that are inflicted upon you, or self-inflicted. That's interesting, but it still manifests in the same way. You can still use it. That's so interesting. Richard, what do you?
Sorry, I read out of my mouth. What I would say, you know, to use your own title, damage control, is the idea of using damage control from the lessons that you learned in the past, and the outcropping of that is the wisdom that you use that you take with you in the future, and that becomes, because I can say Belinda knows me well enough when we speak now about the ideas of my body's diagnosis and all this kind of stuff, but I only speak about it when I'm in an environment when I need to serve on a regular basis. I don't walk around my house saying, oh, I can't do this because of cancer. Oh, I can't do that. I don't, like, if somebody phones me during the day and they don't require guidance around my personal story, it's not even something that crosses my mind until I'm being asked to serve about it.
You just reminded me of New York City, 2014. I went to a New Year's Eve party with some friends. After 3 or 4 days, everybody was leaving, going back home, and I said, I want to stay here. And I think some of my friends stayed. We stayed at this hotel or whatever. And then I checked in my network and I found like a colleague, and I slept in their couch for like a month. It was the middle of the winter. I had no idea. I've never been through snow, like cold like that before. And I remember a couple of occasions where I was walking, I didn't have shoes for the cold, and my feet were freezing, where I would have to like go inside like a business so I could thaw out my feet. And then over time I learned that you need like wool or like cashmere, like a certain type of cloth or fabric to warm up, and also the shoes have to be like a certain thing as well. That was one of the traumatic experiences that I went through there. The second thing was, after about a month, I wasn't really getting along with that colleague, and my cousin, she had a baby and her boyfriend, and they got an apartment through DHS, like through the homeless or whatever. So I said, I wonder if they give one to me. And they didn't. But what ended up happening was that I went through the whole homeless shelter experience in New York City in the middle of the winter. I was in a room with 16 other like homeless dudes from New York City, like ex-cons, like just like the bottom of the barrel people like in the city. And I slept, with a locker. They all had their bags and stuff. I had real luggage. I was one of the only people with real luggage in there. But I slept next to some of these guys, had like Mel said, they were bipolar and they would talk at night and stuff like that. And it was like a bunk bed situation. Well, not bunk beds. Some were bunk beds and some were like side to side. It felt like one or two or three steps removed from prison, or jail. I've never been to jail, but I wonder, like, that's probably the same condition. I remember just showers. Sometimes there was no hot water.
You were only like a train ride away from us.
Yeah. Yeah.
45 minutes away.
Yeah, and then also, to give this context, this happened shortly after I read The Alchemist, and shortly after I went to my first Tony Robbins event. That's when I was facing my fears, and I think those were some of my fears. Like, I wanted to be in the snow, but to me, during that moment, I was excited. I wasn't like cowering in pain. I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy!" Like, I'm in a homeless shelter. What the? Like, what is it? In New York City?
What's the difference between being a man and a woman? A woman could never be like, "This is exciting. I'm in a homeless shelter." No.
And so the crazy thing is, after about 3 months of this, I remember sitting in a waiting room because they required like all the homeless guys to take this vaccine for like hepatitis or something. And I remember sitting in the waiting room looking at the screen and listening to this brainwashing material where they would tell you 3 things. They said you should get the vaccine for whatever it was. I think it was hepatitis B or something. And then they said there is no proof or something. I forget the verbiage, but it was pharmaceutical verbiage that basically stated that there is no proof that this will actually prevent you from getting the hepatitis thing. And then so it really didn't make sense to me. It was like very conflicting, and I'm listening to this over and over and over. But then the third one says you must get this. So it was like, number 1, this is what it is. This is what the vaccine is. Number 2, there's no proof that it does what it says it's gonna do. And number 3, you need to get the vaccine. And I'm listening to this over and over, and I'm getting some cognitive dissonance in my head. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? And that's the moment, that was the pain point where I said, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So I walked out right then, and I called my dad, and I said, I'm coming home. and then so I grabbed my stuff. I called my colleague that I was staying with before for a ride, and I packed my stuff, and then I booked the flight right then and there because I was working. I was, staying at the homeless shelter, but I was working. And then I went home.
It's almost like you were fulfilling a mission, and then your soul was like, okay, buddy, congratulations, mission accomplished.
Experience.
Yeah.
It's time to exit. You do not have to continue this mission any further.
Exactly. Do you guys know Mike Abramowitz from Tampa? He does the peanut PB&J for Tampa. He was in the crew, I think, as well.
Right, no, I never crewed, Jeff.
Okay, so he's like he works at Cutco. He does like the vector marketing or whatever.
I know what Cutco is.
And he's founded this nonprofit and stuff, but he wrote a book called Real Stories, Real People, Grab Tomorrow. And I'm one of the stories in the book because once he heard it, he's like, I gotta add you to this book. And all of the profits from that book go to his nonprofit, PB&J for Tampa, where he makes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the homeless people in Tampa. So, this podcast is sponsored by Grab Tomorrow, Real Stories, Real People. Get it today on Amazon. Richard, do you have any type of creative outlet? Do you write? Do you paint? Anything like that?
For many years before my greatest gift, I worked in construction. I love being creative. It is one of my favorite things to do. If I can create with my hands, creating with my hands and my body is something I used to do a lot more in the past. Now I get a chance to create with my mind and reach out to people with my heart. It's really a great thing. I would love to expand the idea with people that are highly creative and hold their creativity so close to them. There's definitely a way that you can create with your heart. And it's not always about, I'm not artistic. I can't draw. That has nothing to do with that. But you can definitely, if you open your heart, it's amazing the amount of things that you can create for people.
I love that. Create with your hands, reach out to people with my heart. In the Spanish call, Alejandro, it's my friend from Mexico. He used the analogy of going fishing, and I think if I were to paraphrase it, it was like, what is the treasure? Right back to the treasure. What is the treasure of this emotional conflict or damage? And he says, think about like when you're going fishing and you're in a boat. Whenever you have that emotional breakthrough akin to getting to the next level in your fishing, where you're able to connect with the world more powerfully, or the sea or the water more powerfully, and you can catch the bigger fish. And I think this could be in an aspect of relationship or wealth creation, or you name it, any type of area of life, family. Once you get to that level, and I wonder, do you guys have any analogies that we could use to further complete this idea?
I don't, because I think I have some past history around fishing, so I think I was just like, time to shut down.
Okay.
Oh.
No fishing for Bilinda.
I actually might need some healing around fishing.
Oh.
Whoa. Whoa.
I completely shut down. Don't even know what you guys are talking about. I'm like, I'm not following along here. You guys are talking about fishing. I'm not interested.
Tell me.
Okay, I'll give the analogy, and then Bilinda will know what we were just talking about. So the analogy that I like to use is if we imagine ourselves that we're a radio and we're tuned into a radio station, we broadcast and receive the frequency of who we're being. If you're looking for opportunity, if you're looking for relationship, if you're looking for health, whatever it is, just like you said, the subject matter is almost irrelevant. If you wanted to, we'll use being prosperous or, making wealth for yourself as an example. You find that people, as they start learning more about it, their radio stations shift because they learn what wealthy people do. They learn what successful people do. They start receiving. So say they started at 99.9. That's where they were, and they're like, oh, where's all the opportunity? Where's all the opportunity? But as they learn, they start moving the frequency on the radio dial. So now that their knowledge expands, their awareness of what's available to them expands. That's why people are always saying, oh, once you make your first million, it's easy after that. And people are like, well, what do you mean? Like it's unfathomable for so many people. But once you get there, the amount of clarity that you've received along the way allows you to see how unlimited your possibilities are. You just haven't absorbed that awareness yet or moved into that awareness yet.
That's interesting. You say it's reflective prompts. I'm reading here on my outline. What was your emotional shutdown moment?
Oh.
And that's it right there. You just use that one. And then here's another reflective prompt, maybe for Belinda. What would it look like to thaw it today?
What would it look like? What?
To thaw it today.
You thought?
Yeah, thaw it. Like thaw. You know, like when you're cold or like you're freezing, you thaw it. Like you thaw something. What would it look like to thaw it?
Thaw what though? Because to thaw.
The emotional shutdown moment.
So the emotional shutdown moment. What would it look like to thaw it? It's like it's because stuck energy, frozen. It's really interesting because I'll go back to the whole fishing thing. That was so strange because I practiced listening and I'm listening, but literally whatever you were talking about fishing, I was like, I have no idea and I don't want to know. And it revolves around my ex. I can't even tell you, like it was his favorite thing, his love, and he did it so much that it was a major problem in our relationship. And I don't have what I think are issues around him or that relationship, but you start talking about fishing. Yeah, there must be some frozen energy that is in the body, and it must be somewhere in the brain, or maybe in the brain and the heart, because I didn't hear you. So what would it look like to thaw out? Well, if it thawed out, I would have been able to hear your analogy and
Yeah.
answer your question. And and I don't even hate fishing, so it's so strange.
Yeah. No,
I'm learning new things about myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, let me see here. So you said gratitude earlier. Okay. Are you still editing yourself to be accepted? And what truth are you scared people won't love?
Are we waiting for me or something?
No.
I'm waiting.
If you don't have nothing to say, I'll just move on to the next question. Like it's totally
I
fine.
definitely have something to say.
Yeah.
So edited version of myself is, and I'm gonna say it, it's gonna be on a podcast, is that, wait for it, right? I do not have a perfect body. I don't even know what a perfect body is. And I know that I edit myself, or I'm gonna just even say in the past, even if it was 30 seconds ago, I've edited myself in different situations. And it's a belief that's held me back in the past around success. Like, I have to look like this in order to be truly successful. And of course that's bullshit because let's look at Oprah Winfrey as the first person that comes to mind. But that is a place where I have edited myself, and it's a continual project that I work on because of what society says about what we're supposed to look like and how we're supposed to be, and we're not supposed to age, all of those things. So
Right. Looks make things easier, but it's not necessary.
So you could say that looks make things easier, but I would also tell you that looks can also make things much more difficult. Because, and I know that another person will have another version of that story, but when I was growing up, I remember thinking, and this wasn't about being conceited. I remember thinking that I wish that sometimes I could have just looked like an average person. Because I was always I have a big chest. I was very curvaceous. People paid attention, and I remember, and it caused a lot of attention. There was always attention on me. I couldn't ever get away from the attention, and then the attention was all about that. There was many times in life, all the way up until, honestly, when I was in my probably late 30s, when things start to change, and then I was like, what's my value? And now, as the things that I do in my life, they have nothing to do with looks. I used to be involved with music and singing, so looks was everything. But now this personal development world where I'm hosting festivals and being on stage and being on Zoom, there's still that voice that says, well, you need to look like this and appear like this. Make sure you don't get too old looking or too anything. And the truth is, I believe that it's changing. People do not want to show up as on this screen or on television or on stage. They want to see a variety of people because we're all human beings and we show up in different ways. And whether we have lines on our face or we're carrying different weights or we're underweight or we're short or tall, whatever it is, there's unique and different, and let's all honor that. That's where I've been editing myself.
Okay, so to conclude, what's the treasure hidden beneath your tears? Where is your pain pointing you? I think whenever we did the Monday call, I affirmed that my treasure is persistent, especially when I'm afraid of rejection. Because we concluded in the Monday call that rejection, shame, you know, like Tony says, not being enough or not being loved. I think for me that's probably number one. So persistence for me. What would you say is your treasure, your power?
I'm looking at you, Richard.
Oh, geez. Let's see here. I'm incredibly stubborn. I don't know if I'm sure there's a better way to say that, but to give a greater context, I don't know. I like to say that I've lived many lives in my lifetime. I've experienced so many different things, and I've been self-employed, I don't know, this is the 5th time around now, doing something different. And I remember when something new came around again, it was me sitting at home realizing that I made it, and now I'm going to do something again. There was the voice inside of me is like, are you going to do this again? Right? And I'm just like, I'm going to do this again. And it was like, yeah, you have to do this again because this is what you do. You've always done it again. And even though I maybe it's not the right words around it, but I can say that I failed at many different things in life.
How do you like these reframes for stubborn? Persistent, tenacious, resilient.
Resilient. I like resilient. But that's what it is. It's that when that voice in my head, and then we're gonna do it. Yeah, that's what we do. And I picked myself up so many times that's what we do. So I guess it's the resilience, as you say.
Here's some more. Principle driven, loyal to the vision, steadfast, and focused. And here's some quick quote reframe if you like. Call it stubborn, I call it staying the course. Stubbornness is a superpower when you're right and the world isn't ready. I'd rather be stubborn with purpose than flexible with nothing. I'm not hard-hearted, I'm heart-led and battle-tested.
Battle-tested. I'm gonna get a t-shirt made with that, let me tell you. We're gonna sell them. We're gonna sell them in New York in September. Battle tested t-shirt.
Battle tested. There you go.
Pretty cool.
That's your gratitude rock moment. What about you, Bilinda? What's your superpower? What's your treasure?
So I looked at it a little bit differently. The treasure under my tears. So when I really get to that place that I believe it's just my belief with the Alchemist, is the treasure under my tears. Because I'm a human being, I can judge myself and I can judge other people. But when I get to the tears and I'm connected to my heart, I love myself. I love everybody. There's no judgment, and I just want to help the world. And it's the most wonderful place to be. Every time you read that line, it just melts me, and it brings me to my core, which is my feminine. A woman in business need to be in your masculine a lot. So to go back for me to the treasure. I guess femininity. If I was going to call it something, it would be femininity.
That's what she said. All right. In one word or one sentence, how would you describe the process that we went through today? Or one word or one sentence to end and conclude.
I would say heartwarming, eye-opening, and connected.
I do like connected. I like comfortable and refreshing.
I like that.
I'm about the path of least resistance. That's so right up my alley.
I think for me, enlightenment. I think these Zooms, I'm so grateful for you guys to join, because if nobody joined, then I'll just be here alone. It wouldn't be the same. So enlightenment, I think, the emotional frequency scale, at the very top is enlightenment. I've always wondered, since I started studying the scale, what that was like. And I feel like whenever I hold these Zooms, I feel enlightened. Not because of me, but because of you. So I think that's what I would say enlightenment. That's what I would call it. So, all right. So could you lead us on a quick meditation to send us off to our day? Either Richard or Bilinda.
Do you want me to start, Bilinda, and then you can?
Sure. How many minutes do we have?
Whatever. Like, it could be short, 1 minute, or it could be 2 or 3. It's fine.
All right. So Richard, you go. Do the leading of our wonderful heart.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to place our attention on our heart, our chest area. We're going to breathe just a little bit slower and a little bit deeper than you. Find your rhythm. Find a comfortable space that belongs. From this space, you can reach for a feeling of ease. Maybe all you need in this moment is to be neutral, because that's what's going to be best for you. I'd say congratulations. You just shifted your nervous.
That's a great pattern interrupt. I love that. Okay, so Richard, welcome. This is
Thank you.
I have these Wednesday and Friday. Monday I have a Spanish Zoom. So you're welcome to join us. I have a group on Facebook chat and then also on WhatsApp. So if you want to join, Belinda can send you the details.
Sure.
And
That'd be great. Thank you.
cool. And then you can join our community and stay on for 5 minutes. What do you, what do you need, Belinda? What do you need?
When you close out. It was supposed to be like a secret text. But
Oh, okay. All right.
Inch